Welcome back. In this video, we'll look at getting some scripting on the bird and also talk about the physics. So actually, let's deal with the physics first, because at the moment, of course, we hit play. I mean, the bird is flapping its wings, but it's not falling to the ground or moving or whatever the case is. So, I mean, you should already know what we should be adding here. Basically, there's going to be two components on the bird. We need a rigid body 2D, and we need some sort of collider. And the second thing, of course, is we need something to have it collide with the ground. So let's do the ground first, because that's easy. And actually, when I'm going to just change the name of this too while I'm at it. I'm going to call this red bird descriptive. And then the ground, I guess, right? So the ground we put in, there's no collider on it. It's just got its location and its renderer. So we'll simply add, make sure you go to physics 2D, and we're going to add probably just a box collider and then see how that does. So box collider 2D, and so it's a little, obviously a little small. So we'll simply set the Y, not the Y, sorry, the X, and just stretch it across. So again, just making sure that it goes outside the play area, and you should be fine there. No need to be precise really with that. Good. So now the bird, when it falls, it should hit the ground, but the bird needs to fall. And so as we know, again, we've got our transform, we've got our sprite renderer, we've got our animator, which gave us its flapping wings. And if we add a component, physics 2D, we know that we need our rigid body 2D. And we'll just sort of go with the flow here. We'll just go with its settings. And then, of course, let me just make these smaller so you can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. We're going to add another component there, which will be our some sort of physics 2D collider. And you could put a few different things on there. I think the polygon collider will work well. And then that will sort of match up with the bird. We might change that up after just to sort of see, maybe a circle collider would work well, but we'll go with that for the moment. If we hit play here, let's just see what happens. It does fall to the ground, and it hits the ground, so that's good. So those two things are working there, and basically we are done in terms of sort of setting up the physics there. So what I'm going to do, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to create another folder because I'm going to put my scripts in there, and I will call it scripts. Spell scripts right. And inside that scripts folder, let's create our first C# script, and we'll give it a good name. We'll call it bird, or bird controller, maybe bird controller. Sounds official there. And we'll open that up. Now what we'll do first of all is just play around with the on mouse down and on mouse up, just to get us used to using the mouse for a controller. So I'm just going to come into here and then just sort of start. And in mono behavior in Unity, it should automatically have a on mouse. And there you can see on mouse down and on mouse up. So I'm going to click on mouse down first. And so we've got this private void on mouse down. What we're going to do is very simple here. We're just going to change the color. And that will just give us an indication that we've actually clicked on it. So if I go to this guy and we click on our, whoops, this is on the wrong game, sorry. Angry Birds 2, there we go. The new one I'm working on here. So what we're looking at on the red bird, if I bring down the sprite renderer, is over here we have a color. By default it is white. We can change it to whatever color that we want. So what we'll do is we'll just give it, I mean, it's already sort of a red, we'll just make it a more red there, but we'll leave it white here for the moment. Make sure that should be 255, there we go. And so like I said, we'll just sort of change its color by using the mouse here. So again, back at the script on the, keep doing the wrong one here, on the void on mouse down, what we'll do is we'll grab that sprite renderer component. So we'll grab the component, get component, and we'll do the sprite. And I always suggest, making sure that you look here, sprite renderer, let Unity help you out, especially if you have any coloring problems, spelling problems. I'm reading here, .color. So we're going to change the color. So we're going to the sprite renderer, we're grabbing the color component, and what we're going to do is, and you can set color different ways, we're just going to very simply set it to set red. So just by doing that, I'm going to save that. When we click on the mouse, or sorry, on the bird with the mouse, we should find that it changes colors as long as I put the script on here. So I'm going to make sure that I've done that. So bird controller, throw it on down there. Hopefully there's no errors. There doesn't seem to be any. And so if I hit play here, what I should notice is that the color will change. And so there it is. It's got that red on it. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't go back. Okay, so we can correct that simply by doing on mouse up. So if I come down here and do it again, I can just sort of start it on mouse, and there is up, and you can see there's mouse enter, exit, over, as a button, right, drag, all these different things. So we're going to do on mouse up this time, and basically it is identical. So I'm just going to grab this, put it here, and then we're just going to set that back to sort of the default, which was white. So this should let us alternate between red and white. So let's just take a look here. And again, I've got too many things open. Should save, make sure you save it. Update it. Looks good. Hit play again. It will fall to the ground, which is fine. And then when I click, it's red. And when I let go, it goes back to white. So there's your mouse down and your mouse up. So the next thing that we will want to do is sort of be able to control it. So if you sort of think about it, we don't want it to fall right at the beginning of the game. So that's one thing we have to look at. And then also when we click and drag, right, we want it to be able to sort of move it and be able to calculate some sort of distance and angle. And then when we release it, right, then we want gravity to sort of take over. So let's take a look at what we would do here. Now to get it to work here, we're going to use that other mouse thing. So we're going to do the on mouse drag. So we use, whoops, let me fix that up, mouse. So if it doesn't help you anymore, on mouse, there we go, drag. Good. So this will allow us to drag it. Now what we're going to do first is set basically the position of the mouse, and then sort of set the bird's position according to the mouse position. Now there is a little bit of a trick here. The mouse's position comes through basically a set of coordinates based on the pixels, but our world position is different. So we have to kind of translate that. Now what I'm referring to is that this is our, our screen, and we set that to a 16:9 aspect ratio. So if you did your, sort of your 1080p or whatever, right? You've got 1920 across by 1080 up and down. The bottom left here is sort of 0, 0. And then as you work your way across, it becomes 1920. And at the very top is 1080. But that doesn't translate to our world coordinates. Our world coordinates, basically, our center is 0, 0 here, 0, 0, 0. So we need to sort of modify it so that we can translate the mouse position into the world coordinates position. So that's what we're sort of going to do first here. So if I come back into the script on the mouse drag, we're going to create a vector 3. And we'll call this the new position. So the bird's new position. And it's going to be, we're going to follow the camera. So like I said, we want to set it to the camera dot main, so our main camera dot screen to world point, and this is what will translate it from the mouse position into the screen, sort of the actual game position. So we'll take the input dot mouse position. Oops, mouse position. There we are. All right. So this little bit of code here is simply translating that, and we can actually see that. Let's do a debug.log. Actually, let's do two things here. Let's do the input.mouse position. And let's do it right after it. Debug.log and the new position. Okay. So these two, we can sort of contrast them and see. So let's save that. You don't have to do this, right? This is just sort of for educational purposes here. So if I take this, I just noticed you can't see my bottom here. I'll bring up the console. Let's just say Window, General, Console. There we go. Okay, let me move that over here. Hit play. So the bird will fall. If I click and drag, and let's just, now it's, actually I'm not moving it yet, but we can sort of see the difference here. So I believe this one here, 93.571, this would be, what did we set that to first? That would be the input position. And so you can see it's sort of over and down, right? Just a little bit over and down. Once I move it around, we can see that probably a little bit better. And then here you can see that this is the world position, okay, according to the camera. So it's minus 6.7, minus 2.6. That makes sense because it's sort of down and to the left from our 0, 0, which would be roughly the center of our screen. And then the negative 10 refers to because the camera is back. And this actually will create a little bit of an issue, which we'll see in a minute here. But I hope you see that these two are different. The input.mouse position and the world position are different. And that's why we've had to sort of translate them over, convert it basically. So if we go back to our script, like I said, we actually haven't moved our bird. So let's go and move our bird. So transform dot position. So we're going to change the position. Now, what I'll do first, and it won't work, is we'll just set it to our new position. Which you might say, well, that should work. And it does to an extent. So let's just save that and go back. So this will actually update the position of the bird. So let me just hit play there again. Good, everything's cleared. So when I click and drag, you can see that I'm actually moving the bird around. And so if I let go there, you can see I've moved it, and that's sort of in the world position, or sorry, the mouse input position. But it translated into, you know, the camera position relative to the camera, and you can see that it's gone to this minus 10. So what's happened, and we can see that in the 3D view, is that it's pushed it way back. It's pushed it back into this area here, which is where the camera is, that minus 10. So what we'll do, let's just put that back to 2D. What we'll do is just fix that very simply by going back into the code here. And instead of just doing the new position, we'll do a new vector 3. We will keep one position. We'll keep that as the X. The X was fine. The Y was fine. And then we'll just hard code the Z, right? The depth. So instead of letting it go to minus 10, we'll just set it to 0. And just to be careful, I'll put 0f there. Make sure it's a float. So this should solve that problem. So let's take a look, save it up, go back to the game. And we should now find that this number here that we were having, the negative 10, should be set to 0. Okay, so let's hopefully, and the bird shouldn't disappear. So let's try this again. Yeah, perfect. And you can see, now it is still saying minus 10 there, but it is pushing it back now that I think about it. But the position, we're not using that negative 10 value, right? So what's happening there is it's still saying the new position has that value of negative 10, but we're changing it, or we're not using it, and we're setting it to 0. All right, good. So now we've got the moving the mouse around. We have to sort of get the physics of being able to launch it, but hopefully you've been able to see here how we can use the mouse, and relatively simply, to get things working in our game.